I'd like to turn the clock back to 2010. So when I took up my post as Auditor General, just think of the climate of the time: public services in a period of austerity, a debate about the number of councils in Wales, increasing drive for collaboration and regional working. Back in 2010, we were considering how public bodies could implement new and innovative delivery models, how they could change their relationship with citizens and put themselves on a more sustainable footing financially. Sound familiar? Not much has changed, perhaps. But one thing we didn't have then is a single unifying approach to delivering the change that was and is sorely needed. What we have now, of course, is the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, a piece of legislation that gives us a shared aim and a consistent means of achieving it. The Act is, as you all know, groundbreaking, ambitious, and challenging. But if we can get to grips with it in Wales, it really should lead to a whole-scale change. Better decision-making, better and more sustainable services for the people of Wales, and a better future for those who will be here after we've gone. 18 months ago, together with Sophie, I addressed you at a joint conference. We were all starting on the journey. And I said then that I'd be publishing a report that reflects on year one. It will provide a commentary, a baseline, to help you and others understand how we've responded in Wales to that initial challenge of the Wellbeing Act. It could answer questions like, how is the public sector responding? What good practice is emerging already? And what are the blockages? Last week, I published that report. It looks at the 44 public bodies listed in the legislation. And I hope a lot of you have already had a chance to take a look at what it says. I really am pleased to say that many of you share the view that the Act provides us with a big opportunity. You don't see it just as a piece of legislation to be complied with like a tick box exercise, but you do recognize that it can help deliver real and meaningful change. You recognize that the 7 goals and 5 ways of working can help us improve what we do and the way we do it. In a nutshell, the main message, and something I want to stress today, is that most bodies, most of you, are sounding very positive indeed. You're seeking to apply the Act and have started to put the building blocks in place. But we're not there yet. We need to follow those expressions with action. In terms of the work of the Wales Audit Office, my staff have done a lot of listening over the last year. We really wanted to understand your views on the Act, how you are beginning to respond to it. And as the report shows, it's been interesting to hear how you all perceive the legislation, because your perception will pretty much determine how you actually respond to it. There are inevitably perhaps a small number who see the Act as an unnecessary distraction. But most of you are talking with enthusiasm and optimism, seeing the Act as an opportunity to change the culture of your workplace, to change your strategic planning and decision-making for the better. All of you say you've made changes, some more than others, but it's not always clear how you use the Act to do something different. We're told that you did some or several things differently, but often it's difficult to get a detailed explanation of what it is you've done that's different from before and what has changed as a result. You're giving us examples of how you're applying the 5 ways of working, but not yet able to describe how all of the 5 ways of working have been applied. You might have an example of better collaboration, better involvement, better integration, but what about prevention and the long term in that, and how do they all connect? The 5 ways of working, I would stress, shouldn't be seen as a hierarchy, a kind of pick and mix, unrelated to each other. It's not just about being able to show you've undertaken more activity, more work with partners, more engagement with the public. It's about doing all of those things with a clear focus on delivering better outcomes, working in new ways with others to improve all aspects of well-being, by which, of course, I mean the social, economic, environmental, and cultural well-being of Wales. But I don't want to get us disheartened. There are 44 organisations who are subject to those duties. That's a large number, and most are represented in this room today. And all of you are working hard. My team has seen some great case studies over the last 18 months, where you've been trying new things, developing new approaches, and transforming culture and behaviours. Learning is, of course, through sharing. And we've tried to highlight in the report some of the practical examples that we've seen. For example, we mention a new approach to social prescribing at GP surgeries at Torfaen. We feature Nairyn Bevan's new maturity assessment tool, which is helping it embed the Act across its work. We look at wellbeing impact assessments at Denbighshire County Council and the Arts Council's programme called Ideas, People, Places, where organisations work with local communities to reimagine their local area over a 3-year period. That's not an exhaustive list. There are more case studies in the report. And you'll also hear today from other organisations during the workshop sessions, where they'll be sharing their experiences with you. My Good Practice Exchange team have also been holding seminars over the last year and have more lined up for the future, where we'll be bringing people and organisations together to support and learn from each other around the Act. So please check the website for the Good Practice Exchange, book your place. Our seminars are free to attend, I stress that, and they're packed with ideas and scenarios with plenty of time for discussion and networking. Because there should be, and we are providing, opportunities to learn from each other. And that's the true purpose of the first year commentary, to tell it like it is. I'm not identifying, I'm not putting forward recommendations on shortcomings. This is still a journey of discovery. And I want to encourage more people and organisations to go down that route, even if they're not listed amongst the 44. And you'll remember that 18 months ago, I told you our first year audit work wasn't going to be about blame and highlighting failure. It's about supporting and pointing to areas to reflect on. So, look at the report. Use it and start painting your own masterpiece, perhaps. But the report also highlights some of the things we'll be looking at in our future work. One of them is about the setting of well-being objectives. Getting these right is the crucial first step if meaningful change is to be realised. And in a few moments, Sophie will be talking to you in more detail about the work she's been doing around well-being objectives, and indeed is the focus of the report she published alongside mine last week. It's also going to be a continuing area of focus for the Wales Audit Office. It's something we'll be coming back to as part of my duty as Auditor General. Because in future, we'll expect to clearly see how you're using the Sustainable Development Principle, whether all of the 5 ways of working are being considered and consistently applied to inform your well-being objectives. Over the next 12 months, WAO staff will be looking at how public bodies are meeting their own objectives. We'll want to see how you're applying the 5 ways of working in the actions you're taking to deliver your well-being objectives. And again, we don't expect you to be doing this 100% perfectly. I've been clear throughout that it will take time for you to fully apply the principles of the legislation. But we welcome honest self-reflection and we will take account of the fact that real and meaningful change can't be delivered overnight. However, while it's early days for the Act, it's not early days for thinking about how we can work differently to deliver more joined-up, sustainable services. As Sophie and I have frequently discussed, both organisations, hers and mine, need to balance support and challenge. My auditors will want to know that you're serious about improving how you do it. Some of you, of course, have been keen to stress that you've been working in this way for some time, and in future work, we'll be distinguishing between those of you who've evidently been applying the principles of the Act for some time, and then those of you who, despite describing yourselves as doing so, are actually not seriously considering the changes you need to make. And over the medium and longer term, you'll need to be able to demonstrate how the Act is shaping what you do. I urge you, my consistent message for over the last 8 years as Auditor General, take well-managed risks and try new things, because it's only by doing so that we can learn from both failure and success. We want to get a better understanding, too, of how you're working together. I have a responsibility to look at how you're collaborating, but up until now, we've not looked specifically at the role of public service boards. PSBs are critical to the success of the Act. Looking at individual bodies, as we've done in isolation, will only give me a partial view on the success and otherwise of collaboration. And that is why the Wales Audit Office is planning to do further work on places and issues rather than solely focusing on institutions. This will help us look at multiple partners and how they're working together to achieve common goals. As auditors, we want to share the journey with you. And I know that one of the concerns you've raised with us is the fear that audit and regulation could drive a focus on compliance with process rather than promoting the spirit of the Act. I've stressed last year, and I stress again, that we won't be focusing on compliance with a checklist, but I understand you want to see this in action. And over the last year, we've been working with a number of organisations to pilot our future audit approach. Later this morning, my colleague Anthony Barrett will talk in more detail about those pilots, what we've learned, and how we intend to build on this work with all of you. But please be assured that we're trying to address your concerns, and we're also seeking to integrate our audits around the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act with our existing work, so that we're not adding an additional layer on top of your existing audit contacts. We'll be working with all 44 bodies this year and next to undertake our examinations. We'll be looking at the steps you're taking to meet, as I said, your wellbeing objectives. And that will then form the first statutory report which my successor, Adrian Crompton, will need to lay before the National Assembly in 2020. It's a lot of work. There's, of course, a vested interest for you to get to grips with the Act, because our audit approach will depend on where you are on that journey. If you're still in the territory where you see it as a burden and a tick box exercise, I'm afraid you'll be audited more closely. Once the first statutory report, which Adrian will be publishing in 2020, is complete, there'll be the next reporting cycle. And I'm sure that Adrian, as my successor, will be keen to continue the conversation with you about how our audit approach will evolve over the longer term. But dialogue is important. That's why, together with Sophie, we're jointly hosting this conference. We need a greater collective understanding of how to move forward in delivering the Act. What do you think is the scale of change required? What rate of progress can we reasonably expect? We need you to help shape the challenge and accountability arrangements for all of this. It's not easy, I know. We're operating in tough and unsettling times. Budgets are squeezed. Local government reform is causing uncertainty. Parliamentary review of health and social care in Wales is recommending wholesale change. I realise it's sometimes difficult to push forward in that climate with business as usual and with transformative change where the future isn't clear. But we're doing this for our future, our children and grandchildren's future. Fel y cedwer i'r oesoedd a ddel, y glendid a fi. We want better outcomes for all. And if we can work together, if we can match the enthusiasm that's out there with actions, we are likely to succeed. Felly, ewch ati. Diolch. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you for listening.